Home prices in Canada continue to decline, but in one Canadian city, home prices absolutely collapsed this past month. Do you know how heavy you are? Holy moly, she's big. She still thinks she's a lapdog for some reason. Hey everybody, welcome back to the monthly Canadian real estate market update here on Bald Prairie Real Estate. My name is Matthew Pfeifer, real estate agent in Regina. That is my trusted assistant, Matilda. Now we've seen markets in Canada decline by 10% from the peak, or even more in some cases, but one Canadian city saw prices decline by 10% in one single month, and I bet you can't guess which one it is. Let's get into these updates, but of course start off with another terrible bad dad joke. What did the policeman say to his tummy? You're under a vest. If you have a terrible joke that I can use in a future episode, put it in the comments below. Let's get into it. The 320 homes sold last month in Victoria, that is down about 31% from the 5 average. Typically about 462 homes would be sold in the month. While the 375 homes newly listed for sale, that is down 6% from the 5-year average of 420. And currently there are about 1,700 homes for sale right now in Victoria. That is up 12% from the 5-year average. Typically about 1,500 homes would be for sale this time of year. That means months of inventory is at 5.3. We continue to trend towards a buyer's market in Victoria. The composite benchmark price in Victoria continues to decline. It's about $890,000 right now. That is up 7% from last year, but it is down about 11% from the peak we saw in June of 2022. Victoria finishes the year with home sales down 20% from the 5-year average, while the number of homes put up for sale is basically equal to what you would expect. So that means buyers right now are having more choice than they've had in many, many years, and they're having the upper hand in negotiations because there's other properties they can look at. Sellers have to price homes appropriately to get them sold right now in Victoria. And of course, unsurprisingly, the market pace in Victoria is slower than normal. In Vancouver, about 1,300 homes were sold last month. That is down 41% from the 5-year average. Typically, it's closer to 2,200 homes that would sell in the month. But the nearly 1,200 homes that were put up for sale is also down 37% from the 5-year average, where typically closer to 1,900 homes would be put up for sale in the month. And that leaves active inventory at around 7,400, down 8% from the 5-year average. Typically closer to 8,000 homes would be for sale at this time of year, but months of inventory is 6.3. That makes Vancouver officially a buyer's market by the numbers. The composite benchmark price at $1.1 million is down 3% from last year and down 13% from the peak we saw in April of 2022. When I'm talking with real estate agents in Vancouver, they're telling me that the weakest market right now is the luxury downtown market. And that shouldn't be surprising. Of course, with higher interest rates, those higher priced properties are seeing the biggest impact. It's interesting that it's the downtown core because of course downtown has been predominantly stronger through all this downturn, but the periphery areas around downtown and the more affordable segments, those are seeing a lot more strength in the market. Make no mistake, it's still a slower market in Vancouver, but it's not nearly as slow in those areas. And it should come as no shock at all that the market pace in Vancouver is slower than normal. In Calgary, the 1,200 homes sold last month is up 5% from the 5 average. Typically about 1,150 homes would sell in the month, and the 1,000 homes that were put up for sale, that is down 9% from the 5-year average. Typically a little over 1,100 homes would be put up for sale in the month. So that leaves the 2,200 homes currently for sale in Calgary down 48% from the 5-year average. Typically about 4,300 homes will be up for sale this time of year. That leaves months of inventory at 1.8, but Calgary is no longer the hottest market in Canada. At least months of inventory wise, we'll be getting into that city later on in this update. And the composite benchmark price in Calgary continues to remain at about $520,000, and that is up 12% from last year. While Calgary may no longer have the fewest months of inventory, it's still one of the busiest markets in Canada, and we're seeing kind of a distinct trend. Anything below $500,000, that's typically selling fairly well, while things priced above $500,000, those are sitting on the market a lot more. Interestingly enough, the pre-construction market, which had basically been dead for years in Calgary, is starting to see some signs of activity. That's really interesting. And while I've still got Calgary listed as busier than normal, it continues to trend back to normal. In the Alberta capital, Edmonton saw 940 homes sold in the month. It's down 3% from the 5-year average of about 970. While the 1,200 homes put up for sale, that is down 2% from the 5-year average of about 1,250. And the 5,000 homes currently for sale in Edmonton is down 7% from the average of about 5,400. While the months of inventory is at 5.3, making Edmonton a fairly balanced market right now. The composite benchmark price of Edmonton, $360,000, down 2% year over year and down about 12% from the peaks we saw in June of 2022. If you want to see an example of a real estate market in Canada that's basically normal and balanced right now, well, Edmonton is that prime example, with sales, new listing inventory, all within a handful of percent of what we'd expect to see this time of year. That's also why prices have kind of stabilized around that $360,000 mark. So of course, market-based Edmonton is about normal. Regina saw 151 homes sold in a month. That is essentially equal to the 154 we would typically see this time of year. But the 159 homes listed for sale, that is down 15% from the 5-year average, typically closer to about 190 homes we put up for sale in the month. And the 750 homes currently for sale right now in Regina is not only down nearly 25% from the 5-year average, but it's also fewer homes for sale than we saw at this time last year. While months of inventory is at 5, basically right in the middle of a balanced market in Regina. The benchmark price is $311,000, which is equal to last year, but down about 5% from the peak we saw in June of 2022. It's also essentially in line with what we typically expect to see prices often cool off in the cooler months in Regina. This is now 2 months in a row where we've seen sales basically equal to the 5-year average, but inventory continues to be about 25% below where we'd expect it to be. I would actually anticipate we'd see more sales in Regina if we had more inventory. There's a lot of buyers that are struggling to find what they're looking for, but that does not mean it's a seller's market across the board. Some areas of Regina we're seeing lots of inventory well into a buyer's market, while other areas are well into a seller's market. It's very, very disjointed across the city, what's hot and what's not right now. So unsurprisingly, market pace in Regina is about normal. In Saskatoon, they had 200 homes sold last month. That is down 9% from the 5-year average, typically about 220 homes would sell in the month. And the 230 homes that were put up for sale, that is down 26% from the 5-year average. Typically over 300 homes would be put up for sale in the month. While the 830 homes currently for sale in Saskatoon right now is down 33% from their 5-year average. Normally there's about 1,200 homes that'd be for sale right now. That puts months of inventory at 3.6, just barely in a balanced market in Saskatoon. And the benchmark price is $361,000, which is up 4% year over year, but it is down about 6% from the peak we saw in August of 2022. Much like Regina, sales are essentially normal for what we'd expect to see this time of year, but inventory continues to be well below average. And of course, not very many houses were put for sale last month. Could have been just a blip. But also like Regina, I'd expect Saskatoon would see more sales if there was more inventory available. There's a lot of buyers that are struggling right now in certain price points in certain neighborhoods to find what they're looking for. So of course, the market pace in Saskatoon is normal. There were 590 homes sold last month in Winnipeg. That is down 36% from last year. But 736 homes that were newly listed for sale, that is also down 2% from last year. And the 2,600 homes that are currently for sale in Winnipeg right now, well, that is up 55% from last year, meaning months of inventory in Winnipeg is at 4.5, right smack in the middle of a balanced market. With the benchmark price just under $330,000, that is down 2% from last year. It is also down 2% from the peak we saw in May of 2022. Now, compared to the last couple of years, the Winnipeg real estate market seems like it's gone completely cold. But really, in comparison to more normal years, this is basically typical or actually slightly busier than they would expect to see. But sellers that price their homes at early 2022 prices are going to really struggle to get those homes sold. They're probably not going to get them sold, while those that are pricing accordingly to our current market conditions here in early 2023 are seeing homes still get sold. And surprisingly, the market pace in Winnipeg is normal. Well, the world continues to end in Toronto with only 3,100 homes sold last month, down 41% from the 5-year average. Typically about 5,200 homes would sell in the month. But only 4,000 homes were put up for sale in the month. That is down 19% from the 5-year average. Typically about 5,000 homes would be put up for sale in the month. And the almost 8,600 homes currently for sale in Toronto is equal to the 5-year average of 8,600. Months of inventory though is 2.8. So again, numerically, Toronto continues to be a seller's market, but obviously that's not what's happening with prices. We'll talk about that in a second. The composite bench price in Toronto is just under $1.1 million, but that makes it down nearly 9% from last year, but also down 21% from the peak we saw in March of 2022. Now, by this point, you guys are probably tired of hearing me say this, but once again, prices dropped month over month in Toronto, but once again, it was the smallest monthly decline we have seen all year at 0.7%. And I know it wasn't that long ago, the thought of a nearly 1% price decline in Toronto would cause utter chaos and panic, and now it almost seems like a good thing. And I've also said many times, 1 or 2 months doesn't make a trend, but in October, sales were down 43% versus the 5-year average. Then in November, they were down about 41%, and now in December, down about 40%. So maybe we're starting to see a little bit of stability in the Toronto real estate market. Now, I'm not saying, oh my God, the end is over and prices are going to start increasing any minute now. But as a little bit of stability in the Toronto real estate market, that's a good thing. But of course, the market base in Toronto continues to be slower than it typically is this time of year. These 600 homes that were sold in Ottawa last month, that's down 27% from the 5-year average. Typically about 800 homes would sell in the month, while the 700 homes that were put up for sale, that is up 12% from the 5-year average. Typically a little over 600 homes would be put up for sale. And the 2,200 homes currently for sale in Ottawa, well, that is up 44% from the 5-year average. Typically it's about 1,500, but of course Ottawa's inventory has been low for many years now. So that leaves months of inventory at 3.8, which is continuing to trend more to the middle of a balanced market in Ottawa. And the composite benchmark price is $615,000. Not only is it down 4% from last year, but it's down 16% from the peak we saw in March of 2022. This past month caps off one heck of a crazy year in Ottawa. The hot market is a stark contrast to the much cooler market we're seeing in the last couple of months. Sales for the entire year were actually down in Ottawa 20% versus the 5-year average. Meanwhile, new listings for the entire year was up about 8% for the entire year. That means buyers in Ottawa have far more choice than they've had in many of the past years. And of course, the market base in Ottawa is slower than normal. The 2,200 homes sold in Montreal last month, that is down 36% from the 5-year average. Typically closer to about 3,500 homes would sell in the month. But the 2,300 homes put up for sale in the month, that is down 26% from the 5-year average. Typically about 3,200 homes would be put up for sale. And the 14,500 homes currently for sale in Montreal is down about 7% from the 5-year average of 15,500. But months of inventory at 6.5, which is not only the highest in Canada, means that Montreal is officially a buyer's market by the numbers. And the benchmark price at about $500,000 is equal to last year, but down 11% from the peak we saw in May of 2022. Now, when I'm talking with agents in Montreal, they said how from basically April to August, the market was completely dead. And then in September, they started to see a little activity. In October, a little more. November, a little bit more. December, a little bit more. So continually, they're seeing things get a little bit busier. Now, part of that push is people trying to beat the foreign buyers ban, but a lot of that is just locals who have decided, you know what, I'm now ready to enter the market. They feel that there's a little stability. And that's also why we're starting to see a little bit of stability in prices in Montreal. It's still declining, but that pace of price decline has continued to decline as well. But even still with all that, the market pace in Montreal is slower than normal. There were 250 homes sold last month in Halifax. That's down 39% from last year. And the 182 homes that were put up for sale is also down 22% from last year. While the 550 homes that are currently for sale in Halifax right now is up a staggering 226% from last year, but it's actually worse than the 326% it was up the month before. That leaves months of inventory at 1.3, meaning Halifax overtakes Calgary as the fewest months of inventory available in Canada, making it, at least inventory-wise, the hottest market in Canada. Now, the average price is about $487,000 in Halifax. That is down 10% or $60,000 from just the month before, making it equal to last year and down 16% from the peak we saw in May. Now, we got to talk about how the heck prices in Halifax dropped 10% in one single month, especially when you see that it's fairly busy in Halifax still. And this is why I don't like to use average price. I have to in Halifax because they don't do benchmark price, but I know somebody's gonna make a video, they're gonna show the average price and tell you how bad it is in Halifax. But this is exactly why you don't use average price, especially if you don't dig deeper into it, because average price can be easily skewed by what types of homes sell in a month. And last month in Halifax, nearly 70% of all the homes that sold at a price under $500,000, which is very abnormal there. You'd usually see a much more even spread. It just happened last month that a lot of lower priced homes sold in a month, which dragged that average price down so much in one single month. So while the numbers say prices are down 10%, the market is not down 10% in 1 month. It's much more active than that, and prices are much more stable. And in fact, they've typically been trending up the last couple of months. This is just a one-off event, and I think next month you're going to see that average price rebound to more what you'd expect it to be. And as it has been for the last couple of months in Halifax, the market is slightly slower to about normal for this time of year. If you're already a regular viewer of these monthly updates, why don't you check out my weekly news recap? Those are the most important stories that I found interesting that week in Canadian real estate. Plus, please give me a like if you like this video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, leave comments below so I can chat with you in the comment section below. And as always, thanks very much for watching.